This app is truly a game changer for me, and I'm currently obsessed with it. It just made me think what an amazing time it is to be alive when all the forces in the world are coming together. The creator economy, mobile app development, and AI all coming together to make language learning 1,000 times easier and more accessible. In case you have no time for my explanation, here it is. The app is called Mira, spelled Miraa. You can come back to watch this again if you go and look it up and you don't understand why it's so great. I found this app a couple weeks ago through Amber L's channel. So Amber's channel is all about learning Japanese as well, but it's geared more towards a Chinese speaking audience. I thought I'd share the app with the English speaking side of YouTube as well, since I've not heard anyone talk about it. If you're new here, my name is Yuki. I'm a lawyer and YouTuber based in Hong Kong. I'm also a language learning junkie, and I've been sharing my experience and tips for learning Japanese here on YouTube in the past few months. Without further ado, the app I'd like to introduce to you all is called Mira, spelled Miraa. Simply put, it is an app that passes audio content and generates a transcript using AI. But it's also more than just a transcript. Let me show you. Once you open up the app, you enter into this homepage. You can click the app button to add the URL to a YouTube video or a podcast. You can also go to this podcast library to search for popular podcasts. Once you select certain video or podcast, Mira will take some time to stream the podcast and generate a transcript with AI. It takes about a minute to prepare, maybe shorter or longer depending on how long the video or the podcast is. This transcript has features that are especially geared towards language learning. You can see here that the transcript is marked in different colors for different parts of speech, which makes it much easier to read than the auto-generated transcript on Spotify, for example. The kanjis are marked with the relevant pronunciation, so you don't have to go on a different app to find the pronunciation. You can also turn on Romanji if you need them. The transcript gives you a sentence-by-sentence translation in your chosen language. Here I've chosen Chinese. Another really cool feature is that you can ask AI to explain a sentence to you. If, say, I want to understand this sentence, I can click on this button. It opens up a chat box where AI automatically gives you a detailed 3-part explanation. The first part picks out all the words in the sentence with a translation for each of the words. The second part explains the grammar structures used, and the third part explains more the context of the sentence. I've found that the third part about context is a bit hit or miss. I think human beings are probably better than AI in making sense of context, but the first and second parts are really useful. And also, this transcript is clickable. You can click on any sentence to hear it again.
とにかくね、自分の話す日本語をもう一回チェックしようと思いまして、自分で自分の話す日本語をもう一回チェックしようと思いまして、
You can also switch on the repeat button to hear a sentence on repeat, or adjust the speed of a sentence if you want to slow it down or speed it up.
自分の話す日本語をもう一回チェックしようと思いまして、
So what's so great about it, you may ask? Isn't it just similar to one of those Chrome extensions that you can use with Netflix? Well, yes, but Mira works with YouTube and podcast. If you're already using these resources to learn Japanese, you can get so much more out of them by using Mira. I've recently been experimenting with different ways of learning Japanese because I'm now done with Pimsleur, and I found that using textbook isn't really helping me increase my level of comfort or fluency in Japanese. Then, as I'm sure many of you did, I came across Trenton's channel. Trenton came onto the scene recently and really blew me away with his solid content. He's clearly fluent in Japanese, and he got to that level of fluency with his own methods. So naturally, I have to try it out. At the risk of oversimplifying it, his main jam is to learn Japanese by tons and tons of audio input. In one of his recent videos, he recommended getting 2 hours of audio input every single day. Because I've started learning Japanese with Pimsleur, I'm already quite convinced that learning by the ear is the way to go. But even with that in mind, the idea of Listening to 2 hours of Japanese every single day is pretty daunting, especially right now. I understand maybe less than 5% of what's being said. So I started experimenting with listening to more podcasts and watching more YouTube videos in Japanese. But I found that there are a few major challenges. So number one is I don't understand very much of it. If I pick the videos with, say, subtitles in it, I'd focus too much on the subtitles and not really hear the Japanese, which I think is the whole point of the exercise. And second, if I hear something that I'm not too sure about, I need to pause, open up another app or web page to um, try and find what I was hearing, which is very frustrating because I might not have heard it right. And also, the act of pausing and going to a different app and looking it up just totally breaks the flow. And number three is that there's no easy way for me to replay a sentence if I want to hear it again. So, I mean, on YouTube, I can like drag that thingy on the time bar to try and rewind that a little bit, but it's always a guesstimation and I never got it quite right. So it's very frustrating when I only want to hear that sentence again and I can't. There's no easy way for me to do it. But Mira comes to the rescue. So if you listen to a podcast through Mira, you can listen as you normally would, going about your day without thinking very much about it. But whenever you hear something that piques your interest, you can just look down at the AI generated transcript, which scrolls automatically with the audio. You can immediately see an AI generated translation of the sentence that you're hearing. You can click the sentence to replay it if you want to hear it again, or you can slow it down to hear it more clearly if you need to. You can also ask AI to break the sentence down for you in the fashion that I've just described. It gives you a three-part explanation. You get all the vocabulary, you get all the grammar structures. So Mira gives you the option to get a lot more out of the audio content that you're already consuming without doing a lot of heavy lifting yourself. I think it is just a must-have if you're learning Japanese with YouTube videos and podcasts, as I am. It just makes getting the audio content so much more enjoyable. So I've been using Mira for the past couple of weeks now, and I think I figured out how best to work with it in my life. So in the morning, as I'm getting ready for work, I'd put on a podcast on Mira, and just listen to it in the background as I'm getting ready for work. So usually during this time, I won't really have time to look down at the transcript because I'm busy getting ready, getting dressed, putting on makeup, whatever. But Mira would just play the podcast on repeat. As I'm walking to work, I'd have more time to look at the transcript as I listen. So I can see what's being said with the translation and everything. If, say, I hear a useful expression, I just get a screen cap, maybe make a marking on the screen cap so that I can revisit it later. Otherwise, I just continue to listen to the audio while following along with the transcript. Usually, I manage to get about 1 hour of audio input before I get to work, playing the 20-minute podcast for about 2 to 3 times. So in the evening, sometime between getting off work and going to bed, I'd have more time where I'm more stationary and can sit down and listen to the podcast while following along with the transcript. If I get a bit bored of the podcast that I started with in the morning, I'd put on something shorter, say maybe 5 minutes, and just play it a couple of times. Usually the first time I try to listen to it without looking at the transcript, and the second time with the transcript, and the third time without the transcript, and so on. This evening session will be another hour of audio input, and that's how I get my 2 hours per day. If I feel like it and I have extra time, I'd look back at the screen caps that I've taken throughout the day and note down interesting expressions that I've heard that day or I've learned that day in my little physical notebook. So overall, I think Mira really improves my workflow in working with audio learning content. An additional point I'd like to note is that the repeat and replay function on Mira works really well if you want to do shadowing practice. I don't know if you've come across it, but shadowing is basically, you hear a native speaker pronounce something and you try to follow as closely as possible. You try to replicate the pronunciation and the tone, the speed, everything. So apparently this exercise will make your speech more natural, with less of a foreign accent. There is a dedicated shadowing function on Mira, but I don't really use it. I find that, clicking on a sentence to play it, and then pausing it to repeat it myself, and then playing the sentence again to check it is like a good enough function. So with Mira's functionalities, you can easily turn any audio content or YouTube videos into learning material for shadowing. So one caveat is that Mira uses AI to parse audio content, and the parsing isn't always accurate. So for example, sometimes it doesn't cut off sentences at the right places. So if you click on it to replay, the sentence might be truncated, or it might be too long and run on to the next sentence. The transcripts are also not 100% accurate. For example, I said the kanjis are marked with pronunciation. Sometimes a different pronunciation of the same kanji is marked, different than the one that's being said. So for example, sometimes hito is marked ichi, or vice versa. To me, these are minor conveniences because having a transcript that is 90% accurate, with a usable translation and also an in-app AI query function, is just so much better than not having them. If you're using audio content to learn Japanese, I highly recommend that you give Mira a try. I did get a discount off the yearly subscription plan using Amber's promo code, so I'd put a link to Amber's original video so that you can go check it out as well. As always, thank you so much for your support. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up and maybe hit that precious subscribe button. If you're struggling with consistency in learning Japanese, you might want to check out this video next, where I talk about the strategies I use to stay motivated. If you have some knowledge in Japanese but still feel tongue-tied whenever you try to speak it, you might want to check out this other video that I made about how to actually start speaking Japanese. I'll see you in the next video. じゃあまたね